We're gonna try to get it going and, hopefully get out of here before, midnight. I will say a few quick words about Howard, who everyone has been looking forward to hearing. We met him in April, really benefited from his analysis. He's now got the full picture to share with us. He is a professor of accounting at Eastern Michigan University. He does work on taxation, government, nonprofit accounting, business law. He coaches basketball, softball, hockey, poly hockey, and track.
Special Olympics.
There you go, Special Olympics. There you go.
Oh, that's not real. It's not the same.
We won't hold the following against him. He's a fan of the Mets, the Knicks, the Giants, the Rangers, and Tottenham.
Nothing but complete losers. Every one of them a complete disaster, except for, of course, Tottenham, which won Europa League a couple weeks ago. If any of you guys follow soccer, and which anyone know?
Some nodding heads there. But he's been the chair of the AUP Collective Bargaining Congress, overseeing 80 collective bargaining units. He was the president of the Eastern Michigan chapter of AUP, treasurer. He's helped organize unions at a whole slew of universities, and he's here today, as you know, because he is the guy when it comes to financial analysis of universities. We're really lucky to have him, that he's spent as much time as he has on DU, and all of my conversations with him, I only learn more deeply what is happening between the lines on the numbers that he can reveal. It's not a big surprise. We are a rich university with more than $1 billion in the bank that chooses instead of investing in our faculty and our frontline staff who deal with our students every single day, in our students, chooses to increase upper administration salaries and pay for their pet projects, and raise tuition on students in order to pay for it all. So Howard's going to tell us the full story with all the data. That's my take.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate that. Appreciate the invite. Appreciate being out here. I've been to Colorado many times over the years. With organizing drives, and a couple of years ago when we had a failed attempt to get collective bargaining in the public sector here in the state of Colorado, but we were turned back by your wonderful governor. I mean that with all due respect. But I've been here many times and love the state, and a lot of people here, and always enjoyed my time here. And here's the deal. I obviously can't do 124 slides and keep you awake and keep you here. So it's up to me to decide what to go over. You're going to have this document is yours. You can keep it, obviously it's yours to keep. It's being recorded. And I mean, given it's on Zoom and here, you guys could stop me if you like and ask questions, and I'll do the best I can to get through as much as I can. So there is a table of contents here. I have it both in PowerPoint and PDF. I find with these kind of things that the PDFs actually work better than PowerPoint. In my experience, having done a couple hundred of these, that's the way these things usually work. But there's a lot going on here at this university. And let me just start with the main conclusions. Denver's in solid financial condition, reserves, cash flows, and supported by the bond ratings. And the bond ratings refer to these things. There was a decline in graduate enrollment in the last 3 years. There's no doubt there's been a significant decline in grad enrollment over, from 23 to 25 or 20, depending on how you look at it. And it was noted, and that was the reason why Moody's and Fitch changed the outlook from stable to negative, though the underlying rating did not change. S&P kept the outlook at stable. So I'm going to tell the truth, however it is, good, bad, everything in between. The investment returns in the endowment are lower than the market, and this is, as we'll see, related to the heavy reliance on alternative investments. As we'll see, that's really an issue. Overall tuition revenue hardly moved, though, from 23 to 24, despite a big drop in graduate enrollment. How can that be the case? Well, tuition price goes up. I know. How many students are here? You're not a student? How many students? Yeah. Wake up. I'll put you to sleep already. Come on now. Help me out. You met me before, and now I'm putting you to sleep. So the reason is the tuition price increases have kind of overcome the declines in enrollment, plus the mix and how much discounting they do. So all that gets in the mix, and they've been able to keep tuition revenue okay, and total revenues increased. And tuition has been increasing more than inflation over the last several years. There's a very heavy reliance on part-time faculty. I don't put down part-time faculty. I haven't been one myself in my past. I know what it's like, having done that role for several years. And but for a place like this, the endowment it's got and the reputation and stuff, to have 40% of the people who teach you be part-time faculty, I think is not the way to go. And it's really significant, and it's very different versus peer institutions as well. We've seen a decline in hiring of new tenure track faculty, but the number of management employees is increasing. Faculty salaries not kept pace with inflation and lost ground versus peers. So, I understand some of this is not pretty. I'm just telling it like it is, and we'll go from there. So this is the balance sheet of Denver, and it's a nice balance sheet. We have assets up, liabilities down here, very low. The green is net assets. So it's blue equals green plus red. And how much of this is true reserves? How much of the $1.889 billion do they have as true, unrestricted, they could do whatever they want with reserves? As we'll see, a lot of it's tied up in the buildings. A lot of it's tied up in donors who give money, and you can't spend the money because the donors have restricted. Say you can't spend it, or can't be spent now, can't be spent for 20 years, whatever. And so we'll see. We got about $400 million. We'll see that's a pretty solid amount. And I'm just going to use graphs more than anything. So this is the makeup over the last, going back to 16. With some things I go back to 16, with some to 18, depending on the data. Cash and investments, this includes the endowment. Big increase from 20 to 21. Stock market had a huge increase. But since then, cash and investments have continued to grow. The buildings themselves, you guys had a new a science center or and not much since, though I think there's maybe some new stuff coming, but not much since. But that's really, there's only two things that make up total assets. The other things don't really matter. These deposits are when you borrow money from the bond rating, through the bond market, you have to put the money aside, and then you do the construction, you spend the money from that. That's what that is. And it's gone away because you're not doing construction through the end of 24. You weren't doing any. In terms of debt, and I use the same scale. You could, those of you who know how to use Excel, which I assume is most of you, I'm hoping, you could change this scale and make things look the way you want them to look. I try to be true to it. Here's the same scale for the assets and the liabilities. You can see that there's not very much debt here. I'm not saying they should go out and borrow a bunch of money, but there's very little debt here. The university has not had significant borrowing since 2017, which is good. It's part of the financial strength. It's part of the reason why they have a solid bond rating. So, and then you can see the unrestricted reserves. I'm not claiming are that high. All the other net assets, it's everything else is between assets and liabilities. And the two things I mentioned, donors put restrictions on the funds. So you can't spend the money until my daughter graduates. You can't spend the money until 2074. Whatever the restriction, people put a lot of strings on money when they give, and they want control. And then the buildings themselves, like this building that we're in, is worth a lot of money. And maybe some money was borrowed, but this building is, if it could be sold, is part of reserves. But I don't include that in terms of unrestricted reserves. You can't sell, you're going to sell this building, then what? You can't do that. You can't run a university that way. So I'm not making any claims that any of this stuff is really free to be used, because it's not. It's not free to be used. And any accounting majors here? Any accounting professors here? Besides me? Wow. Well, this is for you guys. Let's just go to the graph. The unrestricted reserves look like this. Well, you guys are smart, but do you guys really want to go through all this? I mean, I'll do it. Yeah, isn't it bad? When I got my PhD in Chicago, my mentor of mine said to me that a graph is worth 1,000 regressions. So ever since then, I've realized that graphs tell the story. This stuff, not as much, though it's obviously what we do. So anyway, you can see the reserves have grown over time. And to put them in context, we have ratios. And the bond rating agencies use ratio analysis to give ratings to institutions. That's how they do it. There's a whole bunch of ratios I'm going to go over now. One of them is called the primary reserve ratio. What are the level of your reserves compared to your operating expenses? So just bear with me. And I'm using unrestricted reserves. I'm actually using a metric lower than what Moody's uses and what the university even uses, because I'm not so sure they should be using any restricted funds. 411 of unrestricted reserves, 610 million. What is that? That's how much it costs to run this place. To pay everybody, to cut the lawn, to keep the lights on, to put this fancy equipment in these rooms. That's how much it costs to run the place. 600, and you can see it cost 400 million in 16, and now over time it's gone up. It's cost 610 million. The primary reserve ratio, you guys okay with numerators and denominators, right? You go with that? So 400 million over 610. That's like 4/6, kind of 2/3, kind of 67%. Am I going too fast? Okay, good. And so is 67% good? Well, here's this chart. 100% is excellent. 50% is very good. And here's DU all these years in the very good to excellent range and never deviating from it. And that's the main reason why the bond rating is high. We'll see the reasons why it's not as high as some others and as high as some other institutions. And the enrollment has something to do with that. The enrollment change has something to do with that. In terms of the viability ratio, reserves compared to debt, here's where you borrow the money. And the reason this slope is negative or going down is because every year you pay off some of the principal. Again, I don't know if there's plans to borrow new money or not. Who knows? Yeah, I think I've read that they want to make STEM. I'm paraphrasing, but STEM. Is that accurate? No. And I don't put down STEM. I don't support it or not support it. I teach accounting and business law. I don't think we're really STEM. I don't think we're close. I don't think it makes a difference. To me, I think it's faddish, if you could ask me my opinion. I think it's kind of faddish to just say we're going to put all our eggs in that basket, but there we go. Okay. Some other ratios that the bond rating agencies use. Cash and investments compared to debt. Cash and investments going up, debt going down. This ratio is very strong. Cash and investments to operating expenses. Also pretty good. This is cited specifically in the Moody's rating. They cited at 2.1. I have it at 2.2. Anything over 2 is really good. And then in one of the bond reports, they actually put the debt service coverage. How good are they at covering the principal payments and the interest payments that they need every year? And any ratio over 2 is good. It's going down. You can see the last 4 years, it's going down. Anything over 2 is good, but you can see the decline. And the decline is what has the administration worried. So now we're going to talk about the endowment. Okay. The endowment itself has $1.1 billion in it. Then there's investments outside of the endowment. That's the university every year generally takes in more cash than it spends. And with the excess, they invest it in investment accounts and do what they do with it. So where do they put the money? So we have things called level 1, level 2, level 3, and net asset value. Those are the categories when you look at an audited financial statements of an institution of higher education. This is what it is. Now, I'm sorry to just forget the numbers for a second. Just look at the words. Level 1 is what you and I put through our TIAA-CREF account. We put our money. I can't speak for all of you, but I think I can speak for most of you. The students, you guys don't have a pot to piss in, so you guys don't have anything yet. But I mean that phrase in a good way. I do. I mean it in a positive, upbeat kind of way. I am from New York. Was born in Brooklyn, so yeah. My mother uses that phrase all the time still. So anyway. We put our money in plain vanilla Fidelity 500 fund, the Vanguard fund. That's where we put our money. And the university here at DU put some money in there. You can see they put 435 million in 16, now less than half of that. They have some money in real estate. I'm not quite sure what they must have some real estate somewhere. Maybe they own some apartments or something, who knows. A golf course. Congratulations. I don't play golf, but if you guys play golf, that's great. I mean, they really own a golf course? Is that what the golf team plays? It's a gift. Not wonderful. Okay. Level 3, there's hardly anything in it. Level 4, net asset value, alternative investments, global equities, private equities, illiquid. Think of hedge funds. Now, as Aaron pointed out, I'm a huge fan of the New York Mets. my team is owned by someone named Stevie Cohen, who's one of the biggest hedge fund managers around. And what those guys do is take money from universities, foundations, and they say to them, look, if you give us your money, we are going to get higher returns with low risk. Just trust us. Now, you have to trust us. You have to give us this money. You can't get out of it. If you want to, you give us this money. If you want to undo what you've given to us and invest in a plain vanilla fund, that's going to cost you. And I'll get to this stuff in a second, but at DU, you could see 75% of the portfolio is now in these net asset funds. It used to be, look, it changed in 16 to 17 is when it all changed. I don't know why or how, but that's when it did change. So that's what happened. And now the majority, 3/4 of the portfolio is there. Do other private universities do this? Absolutely. Harvard, which I've been looking at a lot at recently, they have 85% of their $53 billion endowment portfolio in these things. And now they can't, and now they need money allegedly because the orange-haired guy is taking this away from them and that away from them. By the way, him and I went to the same university, and yeah, I do know, I have met him. Complete blowhard. I'm just saying, just in case, I'm sorry if you guys support him. Just, you guys don't know Donnie? Our president, you haven't met him? What a guy. Yeah, he's impressive. So, but they think they need money now because he's threatening them with, he threatened Columbia today with who knows what. What did he threaten them with today? I forget. I didn't see what I know he threatened Columbia with, their accreditation. Thank you. Their accreditation. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that means money-wise, but anyway, so they're all, but Harvard can't get out of these. You can't get out of these things. You are in with these people. And I'm not saying they're not bad people. They're trying to make money. They're not stealing. You sign contracts with them. And let's see how they've done. So this is, the blue is the S&P 500. That's the Standard & Poor's. That's the market as a whole. The red is the DU endowment return. So in 16, S&P wins. 17, S&P wins. 18, S&P wins. 19, S&P wins. 20, S&P wins. 21, S&P wins. The 1 year the DU endowment beat the S&P was in 22 when the market went down. Then 23 and 24, S&P wins by a lot. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In 8 of the 9 years, the S&P has beaten the DU return. Now, the administration will argue strenuously, and I'm being gentle when I use that word, that the S&P is not a valid benchmark, to which I say, really? You can't beat the market? That thing go blank. Did I do that? This thing, how we doing? What do I need to do?
Share your screen.
In Zoom?
Yeah. No. There you go. So that guy right there. And yeah, select your presentation.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah, good.
Sorry. I think I'm stepping on, yeah, this thing is,
How it is?
yeah, I believe. So I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm stepping on the hole. I don't want to fall in the hole. Can you imagine? Take a century to get me out. So anyway, the administration, they can say, no, S&P doesn't count as a valid benchmark. We compare ourselves to other university endowments. Why can't you beat the market? I don't think it's too high. I don't think it's too high a bar. And here's the thing, over this 9-year period, the average return for DU's endowment is 6.5%. The average return for the S&P over this period is 12.2%. They are throwing down the drain $50 million a year because of investing in these hedge funds. It has not worked. Now, they can't get out tomorrow because it would cost too much to get out. You can get out slowly but surely, and there's a lot of different hedge funds that they're in. Speaking of which, I noticed the following in the audited statements. And I do a lot of these, just read with me. During 24 fiscal year, the university invested approximately $51 million. That's not couch cushion money. I don't care who you are, that's not couch cushion money. in 26 long-term partnerships, all which were formed prior to the 2024 fiscal year, bringing its cumulative contributions to the partnerships to approximately $467 million. Under the terms of the partnership agreements, the university and other investors are committed to funding additional investments. This, I believe, is the hedge fund stuff. I don't think they have an additional $500 million somewhere else. This is the hedge fund stuff. As of June 30th, 24, the commitments to 22 partnerships total approximately $230 million. They are locked in with these people. They are locked in. This was from the 23 one. At 23, the cumulative amount was 390. And so I looked at what's called the 990T. The 990T is a federal, it's the IRS tax document for unrelated business income. So the university is a tax exempt organization. It's a corporation. It's a 501c3 corporation. It's tax exempt C3 because its mission is educational, which obviously it is. So if Denver takes in more than it spends, it does not have to pay federal corporate income tax. It does have to pay taxes on unrelated business income, such as investment income. So they listed in here a bunch of funds that I took interest in. Denham Commodity Partners Fund, EIG Energy, So I decided, who are these people? I'm not saying there's nothing nefarious going on here, I don't think, but just curious. After checking, they seem to be private equity firms who invest in the oil and gas industry, which I know all of you support fully because you guys all live in Colorado and you fully support the university investing in oil and gas. Is that accurate? Is that what you guys live for? So I don't look, and so I did Denham, EIG, a leading institutional investor in the global energy and infrastructure sectors with 23 billion under management. I think these are smaller. They all seem like they're smaller hedge funds that they invest in, and there's a lot of them that they're doing. And the bottom line is this: it's not working. And this I got. This is all these different partnerships that they're involved in. And you could see share of gross income. So they're in a partnership with these people. And so DU gets a share of the partnership income and also has shares of the deductions. My advice to you guys is ask them, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Are you involved with hedge funds that invest in oil and gas? Is that what you are doing? I think that's what they're doing. Maybe they're going to tell me, no, these are all firms that invest in wind, solar. You guys are shaking your heads no. Okay, look, don't yell at me. You guys, you're a cynical bunch. I see that already. It's possible. Is it not possible that all these organizations you see on the screen are, I kind of doubt it. I also doubt it. So I'll leave it at that. And you guys could take a picture of that. I think there's a lot more going on here, is my view. So, okay. So we looked at the portfolio, we looked at the bad returns. What does the endowment do? There's a lot of confusion about the endowment. There's two percentages that are important. I think that everyone, student, faculty, staff, administration, I don't know what they know, that you should understand with the endowment. What percent of the endowment gets spent? The rules of the endowment are that they spend 4.5% of a moving 12-month average. And you could see, I just took the average endowment over the year. So and you could see that, but you could see these percentages do hover around the 4.5% region. So Aaron has suggested publicly, I believe, I think you did this publicly at a meeting, that could you guys spend a little more? That's what I did here in the green. So in the green, how much more would the endowment spit off if they spent, instead of 4.5, 5? Like, would the world come to an end as we know it? Would the Colorado Rockies win the NL West this year? Which I believe would be they've won. I come to Colorado, they win 3 games in a row. They won today. You guys see that? 3-game winning streak. I'm just saying. But look at these. So look at these numbers. We're talking, can I say 5 million a year? Can I say that? 5 million a year, what you guys are arguing about with them, that covers just about the whole thing. And then some. So now, At the bottom, over this time, the endowment would be smaller. With compounding, I have a cumulative amount of about $50 million. In other words, instead of the endowment being 1.089 billion, it would now be 1.039 billion. I'm sorry, I'm not just saying this to please you, Aaron. I do not believe that's a big deal. I just don't believe the world will end if their endowment goes from 1.089 billion. Now they'll say, if we keep doing that forever and ever and ever, yeah, keep doing it forever and ever and ever, and your endowment will still be plenty big. So, I don't know what you want to say about that. You have any thoughts, Aaron? Since you're the one that gave me this idea here. Yeah. So I mean, you kind of knew this implicitly. That's why you said it, I think. And you guys all, and this is showing that if they spent 5 instead of 4.5%, the place would be a much better place, and they wouldn't be any worse off. Now, the bottom is what percent of the total expenses? $610 million place. The endowment gave $47 million to the university to spend on good things like scholarships for students. I was going to say endowed professors, but you're telling me that's not really. Okay, there's a couple, but that does happen at other universities. It does happen where the endowment. You guys have heard of that, where they endow and they have. You guys have heard this story? It's not unique. It may not be that common here, but it does happen. So this percentage is, how is this compared to peers? Middle-ish, middle of the pack, maybe a little lower than your peers, and we'll look at all that coming forward. Okay. 4 different constructs of performance. Why can't I just have one? Can you just give me one number to tell me how they did, like a grade on an exam in 87? Well, that's not the way this stuff works. But we're going to go, I'm not going to bore you with the accounting details. I'm going to go right to the pictures. Right? Pictures are good. So there's 4 different ways of looking at what they take in versus what they spend. That's what we're trying to figure out. So what dominates this graph is the orange line, the change in net assets. The change in net assets is all your revenues minus all your expenses. Why is it so bouncy? Because it includes all the paper gains and losses on the investments. What's a paper gain? They have $1 billion in the endowment. If the endowment does really well, it goes way up, and there's a big positive change in assets. If the endowment does really poorly, like it did in 22, the losses in 22, up in 21, down in 22. It's not a reliable metric. The bond rating agencies don't use it. The only metric that the bond rating agencies really rely on is EBITDA. I'm sorry to bore you, but I bet some of you even know what that is. It's earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization. It's trying to get at cash. It's trying to get at how much cash, but with an earnings slant to it. And so what I did here is I took out, this graph takes out the unreliable, not used change in assets. And so we're left with 3 graphs: EBITDA, operating income, and cash flows from operations. And you can see it's a mixed bag. It's why the bond rating is A1 and not AA or AAA. It's because this level here, even when things were good, was not ridiculously high. And the last 2 years, it definitely has been a decline in these ratios. In fact, operating income became negative. What's the difference between the blue and the purple? Mostly non-cash expenses. The biggest non-cash expense is depreciation. You guys have heard the term deferred maintenance, which means the place is coming apart at the seams, and if we don't fix it, the reason why we don't give you a raise is because the buildings are falling apart, which, having walked around here a little bit, I do not believe is happening. The buildings are falling apart as we speak. Concrete's falling from the sky. All right. So, but depreciation is not deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is money they have to spend in the future to refurbish stuff. Depreciation is an estimated decline in the value of an asset, and it's not cash. So that's why, and when the bond rating agencies, when they assess performance, they look at EBITDA. That's the one they look at. And as I'll show you in the Moody's rating, they cited the decline in this ratio as a reason for the negative outlook. This coming down here to where it was there. And here I did it in percentage terms. Bear with me. This is pure dollars. This is each item as a percent of total revenues. And you can see positive, yes, but definitely lower the left. This is what's got the administration nervous. There's no doubt that there are issues here, and this is what's got them nervous, is this decline here. This is still a pretty solid level, but it's got them nervous. So I just took this. These are quotes I took directly from the audited financial statements. There's a section called the management discussion and analysis, where the administration says this is our spin on what's going on. So in 22, successful financial position, strong undergraduate enrollment, et cetera, overall financial performance exceeded budget expectations. And they had something, employee turnover by the great resignation. Did everyone leave here? Is that what happened? The whole place left? What is the great resignation? They wrote that's not my words. That is their words.
As you've seen from the faculty and staff numbers, never happened.
Okay, so, but they wrote it. In 23, they said, the University of Denver's financial operations have rebounded over the course of the past few years. That's putting the recent public health crisis firmly in the rearview mirror. 24, they said nothing. They decided not to have a management discussion analysis in their audited statements. I think they just decided to say nothing. Why? Ask them. Why are you guys not saying anything? Where's the MD&A? Come on, help us out. Anyway, bond ratings. 3 different bond rating agencies. So how do you know what's what for what? So I made a little table. We'll get to the bond rating agencies. I made a little table here. So this is, so in the Moody's rating, your A1, that's 1, 2, the 5th highest rating. S&P A+ is also the 5th highest rating. And in Fitch, the 4th highest rating. So it just gives you a sense of, and I also put here the peers. Where are your peer bond ratings? There's 24 peer institutions chosen by the administration here. The faculty, I don't believe, had any or limited input. Any? Zero input? Okay, that's something that I think that should be addressed, if I'm allowed to say that. Anyway, so here you guys, A1 with a negative outlook, A1 stable, and none of your peers have any of the top 3 ratings. These peers have an AA3 rating, and here all these peers have ratings below yours, below Denver. And some of the schools don't have ratings at all. S&P tends to be a little more positive on things, and here you guys are A+. There's a bunch of A-, a bunch of A+. William & Mary, by the way, is a public institution in Virginia. Public means they get a state appropriation to cover some of their operations. You get nothing from the state of Colorado. You get some support in terms of Pell Grants and in terms of student loans, but there's not a direct appropriation from the legislature to Denver, University of Denver, for operations. There is at William & Mary. They should not be a peer. A public institution should not be a peer of a private institution. The revenue distribution is too different because of the existence of the state appropriation. I think someone should tell the administration that William & Mary is public. Someone should just let them know. What's that? They don't have a Moody's rating. Some of them just don't have Moody's ratings. William & Mary does not have. So I just went, why do some have? Most have both, but some don't have. 5 of them didn't have any S&P rating. Fitch, they don't. It's S&P, Moody's. All you got to do is sign up for free, and you can look at all this stuff. Fitch, they don't let you do that. Fine, but that's what it is. Now, going back to the ratings themselves, what they actually say. So this is so the outlook revision to negative is driven by DU sustained. These are not my words at all. I took it right from the rating itself. So I'm not paraphrasing anything. Decline in graduate enrollment, which is down 10% since 22. So this rating came out in February 25. So it's been a 2-3 year decline in grad enrollment that is bothering them. And first year enrollment also declined. Softening in operating performance, weakened EBITDA margins. That's the metric, that purple line. That's the one they care about the most. For good or bad, that's just what they care about. They do point to the issuer, so the affirmation. So when they give bond ratings, they could have lowered the A1 to A2, but they did not. They said, okay, A1 stable to A1 negative. And now next quarter, sometime in the next quarter, this came in February, so March, April, sometime now next month, they're going to either keep it at A1 negative, make it A1 stable, or maybe make it A2 stable. Who knows? But that will happen in the next, within a couple of weeks. We'll find out one way or the other. So they talk about strong financial level. That's the reserves. $1.3 billion of wealth. That's the cash and investments. A lot of cash on hand. 4.6 EBITDA margin. I got 4.1. I'm a little more conservative than them, but that's still, they leverage relative to wealth will be improved. The administration is telling them. So when they go to New York, I'm sorry, that's what they do. They actually fly to New York City. Probably the president, the CFO, and maybe some others fly to New York City and meet with the Moody's people, and they tell them, we are going to do this. Leadership reports the university is committed to achieving a balanced budget in fiscal 26, as if they didn't have one now. Balanced budget, they took in more than they spent this year. So I don't quite understand that, but that's what they tell them. 70% from student charges. Tuition and, well, see that, tuition and housing and dining makes up 70% of the revenue. That's high. And that's putting all your eggs in one basket kind of thing. You're better off if you don't do that. And so they're in the planning stages for a new academic building to house STEM. Are you guys part of these plans? Yeah, you have to be. Among you?
There's some access for that.
Well, they put it in the bond rating. They told the bond rating agency, so there you go. In the Fitch rating, which they gave access to, this is access online, the negative outlook reflects weaker overall enrollment and declining net tuition revenue in 24. Fitch expects these factors to create a sizable operating deficit in 25. Fitch expects. I don't think Fitch met with these people. That's my guess. Maybe they did. I don't think they met with your president and CFO. And tempered by a 2% tuition rate increase, it increased more than that, as I'll show you. Management's plan to cut expenses will gradually bring DU back to balance. So the reason why you guys are having all this trouble with them, they've told the bond rating agencies, we are going to cut expenses. They've told them this. It's right here in black and white. I didn't write any of this. This is Fitch saying this. They must have put, my guess is they put this in writing. And so down at the bottom, the negative rating outlook is sensitive to DU's ability to improve cash flows as planned, and it also relies on DU's ability to preserve valuable resources. That's they wear that $1 billion endowment around their necks like it's a gold star, and they don't want to touch it. That's why they don't want to go to 4.5. They would think that would be like the end of the world. S&P does not have a publicly detailed rating since 2020. They did confirm the rating in January of 2025. They did not make it from negative to stable. They kept it as stable. So this is all of higher ed, includes public and private. Moody's doesn't break it down. So here you guys are, right here. Very few have AAA bond ratings. And in terms of S&P, you guys are A+. So this includes A+, A, and A minus, A+. So, but you can see, kind of in the middle of the pack. And we did all that. Okay, let's look at the revenue distribution. So the 70%, 59.5% of your revenue came from tuition, 9% from auxiliaries. I have definitions of these items. Auxiliaries: housing, meal plan, health and counseling, conferencing and events, and performing arts. It is not clear if athletics is including auxiliaries or an other. It usually is in auxiliaries. They could put it wherever they want. But other, there's other operating revenues of $31 million. That's not couch cushion money. 31 million of other? What exactly is other? I mean, we have all these other places to put stuff. If I'm looking for transparency, I want to ask them, where did you put athletics? And where's $31 million? What makes up, where are you getting that from? Why couldn't you put that in some of these other categories that exist? So, but this is the problem. 59.5 and 9, that's just about 70%. Okay, now I look at it over time. You really get a different picture when you look at the revenue distribution over time. You could see, first of all, this graph shows how dominant tuition is, how important you students in here are. You guys paying to go to school here matters because that's what drives the whole strain. And you can see we had several years, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. All those years through the pandemic. Did they cry about the pandemic and how the world ended during the pandemic? Well, obviously it didn't end here. But now look at these declines. They're not huge. And they're higher. These levels are higher than they were back here, but they'll argue, well, what about the expense side? And they do have increases in expenses. They also got some grants from the government. We'll look at those in a second to help them through. Auxiliaries dropped when everyone went home. Students all went home. You guys didn't they let you guys go home? Well, you guys weren't here in 20, but the students went home, right? And so they stopped paying housing, they stopped paying for the meal plan. Parking, yeah, they stopped paying for it. Bookstore, student union, it all stopped. So, but I think this graph gives you a good picture of where things were going. And total revenues, though, it did decline from here to here, but it did increase overall from here to here. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. This one?
Where are the investment funds in this?
Endowment return for operations is right here. And wait, I'm not done, since you asked. There's also other investment income. That's like the investments outside the endowment would also be there. So you asked, and it's in two different spots. There you go. Yep. So this is the annual change in tuition and fees, all the other revenues, and then total operating revenues. And you can see the total operating revenues did go up 16 million from 23 to 24. The big drop was here, was 22 to 23. And so looking at the details, I'm not going to bore you with that. That's just where all the money comes from. And this is where the grants and contracts come from. HERF stands for Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds. Any claim that they make that the expiration of the HERF fund is hurting us, they were nothing by 23, they were gone. They got money from the feds and a little bit from the state of Colorado in 2021 and 22. And that helped. And that was one of the reasons why there was decline in total revenue from 22 to 23 was the HERF funds going away. But that now going away from 0 to 0 is not a change. And there's not going to be another HERF fund thing. I don't think Donnie's going to give that kind of money. I don't see that happening. I can't imagine him doing, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's the most generous when it comes to that. So grants and contracts, you can see how little the HERF funds were in general. There's research done here. There's contracts done with the outside world. Someone's doing something here. Some faculty doing something here, I assume. Yes. Somebody's doing something to bring in $60 million. So there you go. Auxiliaries, housing, meal plan, health and counseling. Wow, that's a lot of health and counseling revenue. You guys that screwed up? So your 6 million is screwed up. Who's paying who for that, by the way? So are they charging the outside world? Like, could you come in from the outside world and get counseling here? Yeah, that's part of the fees. Yeah. But the fees the students have to pay no matter what. Like it's a per credit hour charge, right? Well, someone's getting it. I guess you're happier than most. They have conferencing and events. I don't know if this is athletics or not. I don't know. Okay. All right. Auxiliaries does run a deficit every year. I think it's mostly athletics, as I'll show you. I think it's mostly athletics running those deficits. Okay, let's get into enrollment. I got a lot of different sources. There's a fact book. There's a common data set. There's no data in some. The data doesn't always match. There's iPads. I'm not going to bore you with it, with my details. But in general, you could see what happened to grad enrollment. 8263, 7583, 6972, 6199. That's the story. That's why I'm here. That's the reason you guys called me, because that's happening. Your administration is, I'm not going to use a bad phrase, but they're nervous. I'll just say they're nervous. And so there's the total headcount. Two views of headcount. This is how you use scale. This is undergrad and grad enrollment with 0 starting point. This is the admin view. They view grad enrollment as basically going to 0. See, I changed the scale here. See, that's 5,000 and that's 0. You guys know how to do this in Excel? Access options, change the number. Doesn't take much. It's not really high level stuff. But in all seriousness, this is the view they have of the world. And well, we'll see. So when you look at this over the long term, again, you see undergrad up, grad down. But undergrad up, I want to make one point about undergrad being up. No, it's coming up. on the composition of undergrad. The long-term changes, I broke it up into sub-periods. Over from 18 to 25, your enrollment's actually up, but not so much the last couple of years. This is the danger. This right here, that's the grad enrollment right there. That's the undergrad enrollment the last 3 years. That's the grad enrollment decline that they keep talking, that Moody's talked about the last 3 years of grad, everyone keeps talking about. It's right here. It's a real thing. So here it is. So the detail, you have non-degree students. So the bachelor's degree students go from, this 24 is fall 23, this is fall 24. You can see it goes down. There's a big, over 250 increase in non-degree students. And I think that's high school students, I think, is what's going on here. Do you guys have high school students on campus or taking classes online? Okay, so I don't think they would count it if they weren't getting any tuition from them. They're getting something from them. They're probably not taking that many classes, but you can see it's driving. This has also got them nervous. I think this has gotten them nervous also, besides the grad enrollment numbers. So just thought I'd point that out. The details of the grad enrollment, it's not specialists, there's hardly any of them. They went down, but there's not that many of them. JD is law. I'm a lawyer myself, and this is very strong compared to national trends. So your law, is anyone a law professor here? Do you guys have law professors? Any of them members?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Good, good. So that enrollment is doing really well. Doctorate would be people getting the PhDs. So I split up the doctoral between, JD is a doctorate degree, but it's not the same as a PhD degree. Having gotten those, I can tell you that they're nothing like each other. Non-degree students, certificate students, this is all on the master's side. You could see on the grad side, you could see it's all being driven by the masses. And so, it's the masses driving everything down. And so I looked at credit hours, didn't find anything there. I'll just skip. So full and part on the international enrollment. If Donnie decides that no one can go to school ever again here, the percentage of students who are undergrad, only 2.7% of undergrad students are now international. It was 7.6% in 2018. This decline was happening before the pandemic and before Donnie. So you can't blame the pandemic or Donnie for the decline in international students on the undergrad side. We'd like to, but we can't. On the grad side, it was 8.2%. Now it's up to 8. It declined. This decline is the pandemic, and now it's picked back up. 8.4% of your grad students are international. And that's about where it was 7 years ago. And then total students is a little less than it was. So anyway, here I looked at the different academic units. All right, I do not put this data up here to suggest that any one college is better than another. I think what I take from this data is that on the grad side, almost every, other than law and natural sciences and whatever this joint PhD program is, everyone else is seeing significant declines. Everybody else. And that's what's driving the enrollment decline. So I probably didn't need to go into all this. You guys probably, like, all of this. Do you guys get enrollment data? Do you guys see these enrollment data numbers? Yeah, so you guys know. Okay, well, now you have them. Now you have them in a nice, pretty table, and do what you like with them. I caution you. Can I give you a note of caution? I'm allowed to do that. I flew all the way here. I'm going to give you a note of caution. Don't use it against each other. You can't have a University of Denver without an English department. You can't have a University of Denver without a math department. You can't have a University of Denver without liberal arts. You can't. It doesn't work that way. You can't just say, let's just get rid of the Reds. You can't, that's not the way the world works. The way the world works is let's figure out a way to make changes that we need to make to increase enrollment. That's how you work with the administration. You work with them on dealing with these enrollment declines, because it's these enrollment declines that are driving the bond ratings not being what they could be, and given the level of reserves. And that's why it's got everyone all nervous. So all these programs may have different reasons why they're declining. I'm sure there's representatives in this room and online from most of the programs that are here. And you all could probably tell me a story as to why. A lot of you could probably tell me a story as to what's going on and what's gone wrong but you probably also have if you're here on a Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock, you care about it, you probably have some idea of how to fix it or what should be done. A lot of you guys have some ideas on how to fix it. That's what this place should be working. If you ask me how faculty and administration should be working together is let's fix what's on this screen. Instead of just saying we have to cutting is not the way to success. It's the revenue side. Now we'll talk about the expense side in a second on the admin costs. But so here's the increases here are the fees, by the way. Health and counseling fee, technology fee, activity fee. These are the fees that you guys pay. 26 is what they're going to pay next year. Those fees have already been put in place. You're not paying them. You're gone. So you pay these. You don't pay these. These are on an annual basis. I took the quarterly and multiplying by 3 to get them quarterly. And so this is the tuition changes versus inflation. Big inflation in 22. But when you look at this in the long term, this is the tuition price change versus inflation. 18 to 22, 22 to 26. And now here. So here, not so much, but the last couple of years, tuition is going up quite a bit more than inflation. And over the 8-year period, yes, as well. I don't know what to say about that, but it's happening. It happened. They could say what they want, but it definitely happened. How much discounting do they do? 40% discount rate. They get scholarships from institutional scholarships and outside. A little higher than it was a couple of years back. They're not big changes, but certainly enough. And I'll skip on that. Let's get to the admin side. We get to the expense side. There's 3 different ways of looking at expenses. The functional expenses, and these expenses: instruction, research, public service, academic support. Institutional support is admin, all admin. Auxiliaries, housing, dining, student union. I define them here. They're all defined on the next 2 pages. So just a pie chart. Instruction, 37.7% of total expenses. If you ask the general public, they think that instruction is 90% of everything. Sorry, they're not paying you guys that much. You're not 90% of everything. Just the way it is. We can get to salaries in a second. It is mostly salaries, but it also instruction includes not just salaries, it includes the equipment, the academic equipment, and it includes cutting the lawn outside the building, they allocate some of the debt, the interest cost to instruction. So what I do, in going along with what you just said, I parse out the salaries, and we're going to do that in a second. The natural expenses are just everybody's salary. $308 million, that means everybody who works here as an employee, the total W-2 pay on your W-2 of every employee adds to $308 million. Benefit rate's a lot lower than the reason why the benefit rate is seemingly so low, you have a lot of part-time faculty who do not get benefits. Part-time faculty do not get health benefits and do not get retirement benefits. No way they get either of those things. Not a chance. And that's why that benefit rate's so low, because they have so many part-time faculty, as we'll see. And so this is the natural expense distribution. Half, go along with what you're saying, half of the expense is salary, benefits is that, service, supplies, and other, well, whatever. You could think of that was your idea is as good as mine. They make up these categories. These categories here, the functional ones, are defined by iPads. These categories, they could put in whatever they want. And here I'm looking at the total change in revenues and expenses. In most years, they're moving kind of the same. So here now I take out the salary component. This is of the 300. So of the instruction, $308 million. Salaries only 139. Now benefits are a big part of that as well, but just salaries. And so there's a lot of non-salary benefit costs that go into these expenses. So 45% of the salaries go to instruction. And then everything else, less than half. Rudy Fichtman and I have been doing this forever. We just want this to be 50. Can't we get half? Can't those who teach get half? Not here. Not most places either. Sad. Oh, well, that's the pie chart. I love pie charts. So, okay, employees. This is an issue. Look at the biggest chunk. You have a lot of part-time faculty here. As I said, I was a part-time faculty member. I know what it's like. And it's difficult, but total full-time faculty, this group here, which is growing, non-tenure track, I was one of those too. You guys know what a non-tenure track faculty member is? Yeah. I can promise you from experience. I've been this, I've been this, and I've been this, and I've been this. I've been all of them. This sucks the biggest one. This sucks the next biggest one. They suck. I'm telling you, if you don't know it until you've been in the shoes of these people. And I've been in those shoes. When you're a part-time faculty member, you don't know if you're going to get reappointed. You don't get an office necessarily. Back in my day, we had to share an office. You had to beg just to be able to see a student in an office. They just told you what you got paid, and you didn't have any say about it whatsoever. You didn't know if they were going to rehire you or not. It's not good. I don't care who you are. It's not great. Non-tenure track means we're gonna make you full-time. You're gonna teach a full load. You don't have research responsibilities, but we're gonna give you a 1 year. Maybe if you're lucky, we'll give you a 2 year. And if you're really lucky, we'll give you a 3 year contract. But we don't want to make a long-term commitment to you. It's not fun. It's not fun. That uncertainty eats at you. I don't care who you are. You have to be in those shoes to understand how it eats at you. I don't know if any of you have been in those shoes. It eats at you. And tenure track, well, you like being tenure track because you're on your way to tenure. You just hope you're going to get tenure. But you have some control over that because you know what the standards are and you try to meet them. And tenured doesn't mean you can't do anything you want, but look at this pie chart. Well, first, long-term changes. Big over this 7-year period. What increased the most? Part-time and non-tenure track. What decreased the most? Tenure track. They were doing, before the bond rating agencies got together and before the graduate enrollment, they were doing this here. This trend is completely independent of the recent decline in enrollment. I got news for you. It's not going to get better, I don't believe, unless you talk to them and say, look, you want to be a great university. This is not the way to do it. This is not the way. Who teaches the students? Look at that pie chart. 41% taught by far. This is just bodies, not credit hours, bodies. 41% of the people who are in front of the classroom are part-time faculty. That's a lot. I understand Denver is a major city. When you get off the airport here, the mayor comes on and tells you we're the 6th largest airport in the world. You feel like choking the guy because you can't move. Great. Wonderful. It's easy to get part-time people because it's you're in a big metropolitan area and it's easy to find people who are willing to teach a class on the side for a couple of $1,000s. But it's not the way to success, I don't believe. So look at tenure track, 7.1. Graduate teaching. As I was explaining before, there's 3 different levels of graduate teaching. There are people who are graduate students who are just grading. All they do is grade. Then you have graduate students who may teach a small subsection of a bigger section. And then you have graduate students who are the teacher of record. I think you probably have all 3 here. Is that accurate that you have all? And they all go into this category. Again, this is submitted. There's a fact book and iPads. iPads is the federal government's Department of Education. So this is not a pie chart of a university that's looking to move forward. It's a pie chart of a university that wants to save as much money as possible. And I don't think the pie chart's been that different for the last several years. Okay, this is a mess. These categories all have definitions. Management, so I define them here. These categories are all the shaded, the green shadings of management. 248, 331, did they really hire 80 managers? I don't think so. 332, down to 283, up to 316, down to 293, up to 392. What are they doing? I don't know what's going on here. Like I said earlier, I don't think there's anything nefarious. I think there's a lot of different people who gets involved in this? The CFO, the provost, Office of Institutional Research, maybe even the president. I think a lot of different, and from what I see in the admin data, in the admin 990, there's a lot of turnover. You guys have had a lot of turnover in upper admin positions. I think you have a lot of different people directing this, what goes to the, this gets sent to the federal government. I didn't do this. This gets sent to the federal government. I just put it in a table. And it's very hard to make inferences when you have business and financial operations going from 217 to 537. Did they really hire 320 more people? No, they reclassified. Why? I just want to know what's going on. Just tell us why, what's going on here? Why, who do you put in here and who do you not? And why did you change things over time? All the shadings are things that changed. And I don't know, I'll just leave it at that. Still, over this, so I decided, I said, look, this is what I said. I said, okay, I don't have any faith in anything before here. So I'm going to look at from here to here. I'm not going to go from here, was really low. I'm going to go from here to here, where I think it kind of makes a little more sense. I don't know what's going on here. And so you can see they've added a lot of management employees, and much enrollment's gone down over this time period. And why do you need more management employees if enrollment's going down? And full-time faculty over this time has gone up, but mostly because of non-tenure track. But not good. Salaries paid, I'll just leave it. This is the total salaries paid to the management people versus the full-time faculty. They're getting more raises than you. And let me give you this little hint. If someone making $200,000 gets a 3% raise, that's a lot more than someone making $70,000 getting a 3% raise. You guys with me on that? Aaron, do you understand that? Should I write it down for you? You'll study that later? All right, just note that. Okay, this is all the different employee groups. Okay, more depressing news. Your salaries, faculty salaries. Let me just get a picture. All rank salaries versus inflation. Lose, lose, lose. Sorry. And, but I do all the ranks. I mean, I have the fulls, the associates, the assistants. And by the way, look what happened here. Instructors 000, 0001, 00020. Again, hello, what are you doing? They took them out of this category. Why? Someone made the decision. I'm not saying they did it nefariously. I just think you guys should be involved in this kind of stuff. If you guys care about salaries and care about who they're counting, they shouldn't just make changes like this without asking you, or at least tell you. We're doing it. Maybe there's a good reason for it. There could be a very good reason why they did this. Maybe they were saying, you know what, we did it all wrong here. Maybe we talked to Glenn Colby, who's the research guy at the AUP, who's wonderful, by the way, and a good friend of mine. We talked to Glenn, and Glenn said, you need to do this. Maybe that's what happened. I doubt that. But okay, maybe it did. You think they reached out to the AUP? I kind of doubt. Sorry to be cynical, but I don't think so either. Okay. I'm just going to say nothing, but let you guys look. You guys all see this when it comes out. Aaron sent me the 24,990, and I put that in there. Here's what I say about this. There's a lot of them. What's the vice chancellor thing? I want that gig. Why are there so many of them? And I didn't compare year to year because so many of these are partial year that it's not fair to compare year to year, but still, there's a bunch of these vice chancellors. You look at, they're around for, you can see their salaries. They're getting some nice raises. And this, by the way, is calendar 23. It was in the 24,990, but it covers calendar 23 W2. And I just summarized this stuff. To me, okay, 21 people, 20 people, 24 people, 26 people. The totals are going to be bigger with more people. So I took an average and a median. The average, I need my glasses, but this is so small. The average is bigger than the median because you have these salaries at the top bringing things down. I don't think it's about the president, the chancellor's salary. I mean, it's, to me, it's the total admin. It's the situation. It's this. It's part of this problem here. And you also see it in the summary data here. Not individual, you see it in the summary data. You can see the median, 315, 315, 307, 327, mean 324, 337, 352, 370. Faculty, average all-rank salary, basically doing not much of anything. And why? And there really, no honesty, no kidding aside, there are a lot of vice chancellors here. I don't care what you say. Who are these people and what do they do? I mean, I have no idea. I'm sure they're all good people, well-meaning, work hard, but it just seems to me, as someone who look at these things a lot, there's a lot of them. Yeah, and we can, in order to get talent, how come that doesn't work for faculty? Yeah, the same should work for faculty. So we're going to look at faculty versus peers in a second. They also have the 990s yields some interesting information on the top independent contractors, which I charted for the last 4 years. I'm not saying anything wrong is going on here. It just shows you who they're giving their money to, who they have outside contracts with. In 2020, in the 2024 990, 44 different independent contractors they paid more than $100,000 to. That's a lot of consultants and things of that nature. You can see who they are. Digital marketing, child welfare media campaign, $1 million. Okay. Research grant subcontractor, property management, property management, property management, property management. They're paying someone to run, I assume, dorms or other things that they own, and these are outside people, not employees. Have they outsourced housing? So you have, they own them, and so they pay people to maintain them and run them, and they do that so employees could get good prices on their. You guys are laughing at me. Okay, I take it back. I erase that. All right. Anyway, good stuff. All right, peers. These are 24 peers. William & Mary's public, as I noted before. One thing that should come out of this, besides transparency, they should give you guys everything and not make you sign agreements before you have to talk about anything. You need to sit down with them and form a committee, equal number of faculty and administrators, and come up with a real peer list that makes sense. I'm not saying this one doesn't make sense, but there are issues. And why can't you guys come together on a peer list that makes sense? So I did these characteristics. I did these characteristics of the peer list, and the state, you can see the states, a lot of East Coast, 4 in Massachusetts, 3 in New York. Look, I love New York and Massachusetts, that's where I'm from, but I think I'm in Denver. Am I in Denver? Is that anywhere near New York? I'm not saying they can't be a peer, but I think geography should matter a little more than it does. In terms of region, you're the only Rocky Mountain. There's no other Rocky Mountain institution in your peer list. Okay. No one here in Colorado fits? Well, if you included a public, well, you could include one of the publics if you really wanted to. But you're in a large city. There's 2 different Carnegie classifications. There's a Carnegie classification of the institution, and there's a Carnegie research, R1, R2, R3. So you guys are R1. You can see there's 15 R1s, 9 R2s, and 1 R3. And you guys are R1. I'm not so sure a peer group should look like this, if you know what I'm saying. These are the things that should be discussed. But there's other things to look at. Faculty salaries. Full professors, 16th out of 22. This is reason 22. These 3 schools do not report to the AUP, do not report in 25. 16 out of 22 for fulls, 16 out of 22 for associates, 17 out of 22 for assistants, 9 out of 13 for lecturers, 17th out of 22 for all ranks. That sucks. Sorry. This is how much you're behind on average in dollars, and that's percentage. Just levels, not good. Not good. Then this is the picture of the all ranks. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. More bad news. I'm sorry, I'm just telling the truth here. This is how you've done from 21 to 25 versus the AUP. So the full professors lost $6,500 or 3%. The associates lost $92.28 or 7.4%. The assistants did okay. Lecturers, there's fewer of them, they did okay. And all ranks overall lost a little bit as well. Not good. You guys don't want to see anymore, do you? Okay, here's a graph of that. It's all below the red line. Just think of it this way. Don't you want to be maybe above or even? Aaron, am I allowed to say that? We can dream. Doesn't have to be a dream. It could be something that could be discussed. And there are ways to get there without breaking the bank. You could have win-wins. One of the things that I could add is you could have an additional promotion for a full professor. Someone who's been a full professor for, let's say, 5 or 10 years, if they're continuing to do research and perform well, they get an additional promotion. That gives more money to that person, and it also helps the university because you're rewarding someone who's doing well. You could come up with win-win solutions to deal with the issues like this. At least I think you can. Doesn't have to be this bad. Now, this I did iPads. I don't have 2025 for iPads because it's not out. 2024, all the institutions are in iPads. No better. 17th out of 25th for fulls, 16th out of 25 associates, 19th of assistants, lecturers, all ranks. Even worse by some measures. So whether you use iPads or the AUP, whether those numbers don't exactly match is another story, but doesn't, either way, you guys get the picture. Your salaries are lower. Endowment, your endowment of $1.1 billion at the end of 24. And I used, they should like this. I used the admin site and the Kubo site. That's them. They don't want to do all this data. So I use this site itself. You guys have a toward the bottom. Correlation with tuition percentage. Negative correlation between the size of the endowment and percent of tuition has negative correlation. Higher the endowment, lower the percentage of revenue that covered by tuition. Makes sense. And this is the tuition percentage. You guys are a little more tuition reliant. And this is from 23. It was 59.5% for 24. It was a little higher 2 years ago. A little higher than most. 8 out of 25. The salary spending, I have a hard time with this. Let me make this a little smaller. The other way. I have a hard time with this one due to all the issues with iPads. I just have a hard time making anything out of this data. I looked at the enrollment. You guys are much more grad heavy. You're 9th out of 25 in terms of overall enrollment, 4th highest percentage of grad students, 4th lowest undergrad. So you have much, and so that's why the decline in grad enrollment is obviously an issue because you guys are more heavy. You know, you guys are very heavy in grad enrollment compared to your peers. This is the change in enrollment over this 3-year period. And you could see, so you guys, undergrad up, grad down, overall 3.4%. Your grad enrollment, so DU had the 5th best change in undergrad enrollment. However, the grad decline was the 21st highest, indicating there were 4 institutions. There were 4 that had worse grad declines than you guys. Fordham, Brandeis, SMU, and Villanova. Overall, DU had a headcount enrollment drop of 3.4%, which is in the bottom half. 13 had drops, 12 had increases. So the peer group is kind of a mixed bag also when it comes to enrollment. They're also seeing, some are seeing declines. It's a mixed bag, and you guys are a little worse than most, but not terribly so. How much tuition do you charge? This was 24's tuition was $59,340. I'll go back to it, but it's bigger. $59,340, 14th highest out of 25, not that high. Your discount rate, 10th highest, so pretty good. Now look at William and Mary's tuition. Why? They're public. They don't belong here. Get them out, please. I'll pay you guys $5 if you get them out of your peer list. And comparing who teaches the classes, 6th highest in the percentage of part-time is DU, lower in the percentage of tenure. You're toward the bottom half in tenure track, and even non-tenure track, but right toward the top in terms of part-time. Congratulations. That needs to change. Don't you guys agree with me on that, or am I missing that? Did you guys know that? Yeah, well.
That from your full presentation.
All right. Graduation and Pell rates. You guys, I don't put much stock in these, but you guys do have a pretty, you know, the percentage of students with Pell grants, 15%. Nationally, that's not high. A public school is going to be much higher. There's a lot of institutional aid given, but you don't have that many low-income students here for whatever reason. Grad rates are okay. Last bit, almost done. Degrees, we're going to start seeing this keep going down. Because if there's fewer master's students, there's going to be fewer ones graduating. So this is going to go down, though bachelor's is nice, law, graduate. Persistence is 88.9%. That means 11.1% of the students who start leave within 1 year. Another way for students and faculty and administration to work together. Why are these people? It may not seem like a lot, but you're losing 11% of your students and even more in prior years after 1 year. What's going on? Why is it? Is it financial? Are they taking the wrong classes? Are they getting good advice? Are they getting good advising? Do they have personal, I mean, all these reasons, but I think who's teaching the first year classes? These are things that you guys should be working with the administration because it really helps it helps the students, it helps the university financially, and it makes, when you lose a student, that's really a horrible event. That's a horrible result. When a student starts here and then they leave after 1 year, that's really a tough result. And I think it's something, again, that student administration and faculty can work together on. Class size, I didn't see much. This is how many sections have between 2 and 9 students. You guys generally have small classes here. Is that fair to say? So how many kids did you take to the ice cream store today? So you were in here. So you're somewhere in this group here. So I'm not saying, you're probably limited by the physical space of the classrooms. Like you can't, there's 7 classes that have more than 100 students. You probably don't have that many spaces where you could put more than 100 students in. You don't have that many rooms you could put more than, yeah. So that's why that's limited. So I'm not much, but I just, again, this is all, my goal here is to give you guys everything. I'm almost done. Athletics. I love sports, as you can tell. 6.5% of your students play sports. 7.5% of the men, 5.6% of the women. These are the sports you play. The other sport, this all comes from the Title IX data. This is all Title IX data. I don't have 24 data, by the way, has been submitted, but we don't see it yet because they don't want to show it to us. So triathlon. You guys know you have triathlon athletes here? You have 9 of them. Anyone know that? That's pretty serious stuff. That's really hard. So anyway, this is the average salary for a men's coach, for a women's coach. This is Title IX data. What do you expect? That's what this shows. It gets better. Don't worry, it gets better. So 8.8% of the total. So $51 million gets spent on athletics. Head coaches' salaries, assistant coaches' salaries, athletically related student aid, you give them breaks on the way in, recruiting expenses, operating expenses, other team expenses. This is admin. This is kind of a squishy one because that ain't like the president, if the president goes to a hockey game, like they count like a percentage of his salary as him spending time with athletics. It's kind of jokey, but that's what we would see that more for sure if we had the detailed breakdown of the NCAA. There's an NCAA management report that comes out. Private universities don't share them with the public. Be nice to have it. So, but that's 8.8% of your expenses go to athletics. Looking at it over time, athletic expenses have gone from 38 million to 51 million over this 5-year period. And so over this 5-year period, athletic expenses up 33, instruction expenses up 22, other expenses up 11, total DU expenses up 17. So athletic expenses up much more than anything else. I'm not saying that's an issue. It should at least be discussed. I did it by sport, showing you I have nothing else to do with my life. This took more than 2 minutes. I'm going to brag. Hockey is big here. Hockey is the sport. It spends the most, $5.5 million. No women's sport comes close to that. That's why you see the disparities. And the hockey, over this 5-year period, men's sports have gone up 4.3 million. Almost half of it is due to hockey. But they won a national championship, didn't they? So I guess it's all worth it. Maybe not. So I don't know what to say about this other than volleyball is getting cut. Why is volleyball program getting cut? I also have on here, I didn't highlight it. Where is it? Spending per athlete, per male athlete, for one athlete, spending per sport, men's sport, one sport. Hockey is driving all of this. So now how much revenue does hockey bring in? If I had the NCAA management report, I would know, but we don't know that. So, but it's interesting. I'm not saying you cut sports or do anything like that. I don't think cutting sports is an answer. It's not as many students as I thought it would be. Not that many students play sports here. You guys are students. You guys go to the games? Sometimes? Rarely, yeah. No, that's a no. But you went at some point. Yeah, well. Yeah, I don't think it's, but there you go. $51 million is still, bottom line is, that's $51 million spent on the athletic program. So I'm done. For 1 hour and 22 minutes. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Let's open it up and also anybody who's online, please, raise your hand, we'll recognize you. For folks that are here, any questions, clarifications, elaborations?
I said for a second.
Yeah, and do you
Just taking over.
do you need a Coke, you need,
You got water.
you got water, you need an empanada?
a crazy to get up.
Does he need the
Question
mic?
you have?
Yeah, maybe the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, like, and we've got staff people here, we got faculty here, we got students here, so, yeah, everybody, please.
All right, fire away. Yeah.
I guess more of a comment, as a staff representative, it would have been great to see staff members in this also to perpetuate the compensation across campus.
There are staff numbers in there in the iPad data, in the employment data. Well, your salaries are in there.
But in comparison, like the comparison to faculty to administration,
Well, it's in here.
is it in there?
Yeah. So in the iPads data. Right here. These are all these now. Yeah. The question is, where's the staff data? And so this is the average salary of non-instructional employees. So these categories have definitions. All these as to where you fit in here. That's, this document has definitions of who goes in these categories. You could probably figure out yourself, is my guess. You probably have a sense. These are the average salaries. Also in here, besides that, for all of these different categories, I look at the dollar change and the percentage change in these different categories over this 4-year period. So you can see service, maintenance going down. Sales is only a couple of people. Transportation, healthcare, library and academic affairs, and everything else. So
Can you drop two slides down? I think it's 95 there. I just want to point something out. 90, you're on 93, so 2 more down. Next one. Yeah, so on this one, the to be eligible for public benefits in Colorado is $45,000. These are averages. So these 2 categories here, there are people who are being paid so little that they are eligible for public benefits.
office and admin support is typically secretarial staff. I assume you have secretarial staff here.
Yeah.
There's no secretaries left?
Some got fired, but yes, indeed, there are people in that category. Yeah.
Well, if you look at the numbers, besides that, we also have the numbers. So here are the numbers for those people. So over time, office and admin support going way down, 278 down to 174. So that's.
Yeah, and in this year, there were a number fired from the liberal arts, from business, from Corbell, yeah.
So you'll have decided, so that's where, staff is represented.
So that would be most likely student affairs, advising, like
Many of those are.
Yeah, let me show you.
Student-facing people.
So the definitions, so here are the definitions. So some of these definitions I have links to because they'll give you the job classifications. For example, if I wanted to do this, if I click on that, I'll show you what it looks like. So it gives you a list of the different occupations and what's included there. So you should be able to tell from both for these categories, which we have pretty extensive definitions. And then all of these, every one of these has a link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics categorization. So business and finance operations, you go here and you get a list of what all these people are, what all the categories are.
One of the observations I had, I was writing down a couple of things, but you said that the 2 lines, and if we click back, the 2 lines that gave you pause were the management and the business financial operations. They jump around in ways that just are hard to make sense of.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that, if you could ask the question of institutional research or the folks that are doing this.
If I'm you guys, if I'm a staff person or a faculty member or anyone cares, here's what I do. I want to know, just give me
you're not that big a place, just tell me the people who are in these categories. Just tell, somebody, don't you think somebody knows the names of the human beings that are in each of these categories? It can't, how hard do you think it would be to send anyone interested in who makes up office and admin support? List, give me the list of 174 names. If you don't want to give me names, give me positions. Can't they, how hard would that be to do? And I don't think it would be that hard to do. I don't think they're gonna do it. But someone has to know this, right? Someone has to know this. So the staff stuff is represented, I went over it rather quickly, but I'm certainly, are you unionized? Are you in a union? None of you guys are? There's someone that's, who's unionized here?
The custodial maintenance,
So,
apparently the Zamboni drivers. All four of them.
well, I don't know, so again.
Yeah, we're.
Well, they're gonna be, I don't know where they are. I don't know if Zamboni's gonna hit any of those.
I don't think that is the decisive,
Yeah, but given how messy this slide is,
Yeah.
I would like to know who's in what. Because all I could see is this is what they report to the federal government. So I want, and if I'm a staff person here and I care about, are they cutting my salary? Are they cutting acquisitions? And these data hopefully tell you that. But the problem is, I don't trust what I see on the screen.
It's moving around. It's too weird.
But this,
Yeah.
and I don't, like I said, I don't believe someone did this out of, what word am I gonna use here? Malice, thank you. Out of malice, what I think happened here is you had a lot of changes in who is in charge of all this. That's my guess. And every time there's a change, the new person gets in there and says, we're doing it my way. And I don't like what you did, I'm going to do it my way. But for you guys, when you see this, it's hard to make sense of what's going on in terms of staffing at a university. And I'm sorry, but staffing is a pretty big issue now. Because I think the word cuts is in the air, is it not?
What you said, it was even in the report to Moody's or Fitch or wherever.
You saw, yeah, they told Moody's we're cutting people
They told people in the town hall today, they're making. Today.
today. So if they can do that, they have an obligation to tell us what's behind this. So we want to know where they're cutting. I mean, I want to know this. I want to know this. If I'm you, and Aaron, you could ask. But I think it gets best asked not just from AUP, but I think if you guys all got together as staff and faculty got together and say, we heard cuts, we see this data, which is somewhat unreliable as to where we're concerned for our people. We're concerned for our own jobs, we're concerned for our people. We want to know what's going on here. So tell us how you categorize people. And plus, once you start discussing that, I think the amount of savings they get from laying off staff people is couch cushion money. They're doing that not necessarily to save money, they're doing that to do what they always wanted to do, which is they don't want employees. And on the faculty side, the lack of full-time hiring, the lack of full-time faculty is really not good.
Yeah, please leave.
When I've heard the chancellor speak about this, he often says, like, when people bring up cuts, he says that they hope to, when like investments like STEM Horizons or the Kennedy Mountain campus start to actually generate, they hope that it'll generate more enrollment and then they can, replace the cut that they've made. I'm curious if, like, in your experience, if this is something that schools normally do, like they go up and down in terms of investments. Is it usually sort of more steady, but like, is that a normal thing for universities to do?
Well, what chancellors and presidents and boards like is they like these new projects because it's a legacy for them. I personally don't think it works. I think starting these big projects that have with ribbon cuttings and politicians, what matters is what I showed you earlier when I showed you the enrollment by college. That's the heart of this place. The heart of this place is every individual college and what's going on in these programs in these colleges. You guys have a lot of good programs here. We have a lot of good things going on here. Let's focus on what's going on in our programs right now to make them better. I think that's what I disagree with you, President, that the way to do this is to build this big new, whatever you want to call it, that's going to lead to wonderful things. These guys They just like to put their names on things. And I just don't think it works in the long run. There are significant issues here. But I think I've identified them. It's the enrollment in the grad program, mostly in the colleges, that needs to be addressed. And people that work here, you're the ones, everyone who works here has ideas on what we can do to make that better. Do you guys really get consulted or have an idea on a brand new project I mean, that's just I don't think it works. I'm answering your question, I do not think it works. And I've seen it in universities, they all like putting their names, it's at my university, we've had a 50% enrollment decline over the last 10 years. Because they keep talking about stuff like the president's gonna do this. And it never works. You gotta look at what's going, and the 11% drop, the 11% decline, loss of first year students. You're not gonna get everybody back, but I think you can do better. Yeah, go ahead.
But in terms of like reducing academic units and then bringing them back a couple years later,
That's
is that a
crap.
normal?
That's
or does that
utter
not
crap.
happen?
Utter crap. I'm sorry to use the wrong language. Utter crap. They don't want, bring them back? Yeah, really? No. Look, these board members and these, they don't, and the CFOs, all they see is, we've told Moody's we're gonna cut, and we're gonna get it, and that's all they care, we're gonna cut, keep our bond rating, get that negative outlook out, get it back to stable, and they'll have champagne. The hard work is to deal with the enrollment issues that are really facing the university, instead of, we'll cut them and bring them back. Cutting is not the answer. It's not, it never works, it never works, and I've seen it time and time again. Cutting people does not work. Cutting secretaries and cutting staff people and outsourcing maintenance and cutting faculty, it doesn't work. All it does is reduce your expenses and your revenues wind up going lower and lower. Everything to me, the focus should always be on the revenue side and not the expense side, not the cut side. You have a lot of good people working here, all these students are graduating, you have all this research going on here. Focus on the good things that happen here and make them better. That's my view. From allowed to have a few. You guys don't have to be really there, but
Go for it, please.
Just so people
Yeah,
are
yeah,
still
yeah,
online.
there's a couple of them.
Okay. So here, I'll stand on the side. In 2018, the female law professors had a lawsuit around gender discrimination in pay. The university acknowledged the discrimination and paid out $2.66 million. So, but what happened was we were under observation. I don't know what the right word is because I'm a social worker. What can I say? And so there was a lot of salary corrections that happened right after that lawsuit across campus because there was many pay inequities. And I'm only bring this, it's not really a question, it's really a comment that, so when we look at the 2018 salaries, I'm not sure if it's before and after the correction, but really concerns me is how many people were underpaid already, and now they're all equally underpaid.
Yeah.
And that's super concerning to me.
But you mentioned 2.2 million. That's a drop in the bucket to these people. That's really not that much money to fix those things. And by the way, the AUP salary stuff does have gender, does have salaries by gender, but it doesn't do salaries by gender by discipline, which is what has to be done in order to do a study like that. But to get that kind of money is still really important. But the law so the female law faculty sued or took action. And now look at the law schools, almost the only grad program that's increased. So standing up doesn't necessarily lead to bad outcomes. And I just think they have the wrong focus. When I'm hearing about they get cut, they announced today they're gonna cut people. I'm not saying that to make you guys feel, I'm just telling you, it doesn't work. It does not help. It doesn't work. And it's not like this place is in the dumpster fire. The place is not doing poorly at all. There are issues. There definitely are issues, but I think they can be fixed if there's a dedication to working on the revenue side and keeping people here. Anything else?
Do you have an observation?
Is there something the chat?
I don't see anybody in the chat. I put that in the chat, say, do you want to ask a question? But I got a question for you, and that is, you made a number of observations about the endowment, especially the allocation to these alternative NAV3
Net asset value.
net asset value, and what that means and their returns. What questions should we be asking about that
Good.
in order to extract?
Yeah, so
information and get-
I think this is a tough one because they're not gonna change. I think you should bring it up. And again, I'm not suggesting anything underhanded, but there's too many relationships between board members and financial services industry. There's too many relationships between board members and the oil and gas industry here, as I've noted. I think those relationships are too strong that they're gonna get out of any of these partnerships that they're in. It would also cost money to untie them. But they've really, for a place with $1 billion endowment, they have dug in, they have gone all in on this stuff. They did not, I mean, I do a lot of private universities, doing a lot of these analyses. This is really, 75% is high. And for a university with $1 billion, which is big, but not off the charts high. Most places with $1 billion do not put 75% in hedge funds. They put a lot less. And now with the crisis that's going on in Washington, we can joke about it all we want, but universities are realizing maybe we need a little more flexibility and liquidity in our portfolio. And because when you tie your money up in this stuff, you can't get out of it. But the question I would ask is, at what point are you actually gonna beat the market? And don't tell me that you can't beat the market. I wanna know if beating the market 1 out of 9 years is acceptable.
And I remember you showed one point on those 9 items that says how much they spend each year on the fees to manage.
Yeah, they pay,
And it's $3, $4, $5 million.
So when you do a hedge fund, you give them a fee off the top. When you invest in plain vanilla funds, those fees are they're not zero, but they're very low. You guys have retirement accounts, don't you?
Yep.
Do you guys put your money in these fancy funds? We all have, you guys have seen the choices. Don't we all choose the plainest vanilla funds that we can find? And just, how can you sleep at night otherwise? Like if you had $1 billion, would you do what they're doing? There's no way. There's no way I would do what they're doing.
I'd like to find out what it feels like to have $1 billion.
They have.
Right. But Mohammed, yeah.
So how do you respond? Because whenever you talk to them, the answer is always the headwind. We have an enrollment cliff. We have international students who are not allowed into the country, so the enrollment is going down. The NSF funding is getting cut. The national trend is down. How do you respond to that?
I think it's all that's exaggerated. If I could be a political scientist for a second. I think international students, I showed you what percentage there are of the students here. There's no way there's gonna be, they're gonna cut off all international students. I think, given the way the president has acted, there's no doubt that there's a chill he's probably putting on students overseas who are thinking of coming to this country to go to school. It's not gonna, there's still a pull. There's still a pull for international students to want to study here at the University of Denver or Boulder or Colorado Springs, Pueblo, wherever it is in the state or around the country. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. In terms of the grants, the NEA grants, I think this guy, don't take this the wrong way, I think he's got an attention span of 7. And I think he's going to move on to other things. Yeah, I understand that any National Endowment of the Arts, National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health grants, they're a big deal here. You guys get $60 million in grant money here. There's a lot of people writing a lot of grants. I don't know if any of you work in those areas or work with those people who are doing a lot of grants. That's significant money to the university. It makes a big difference. And it attracts people, it attracts students internationally. It's important for so many reasons. I just think he's not going to be able to do this legally. And secondly, there's an election next year for the Congress. Democrats are going to get the Congress back. They're going to get the House back, not the Congress, they're going to get the House back. And just let the guy, just let him alone, let him hang himself, and everything will take care of itself. That's my feeling on that. He's not going to be able to just cut off NEA, NIH, and NSF funding. That's just not going to, it's too important to who we are as a country and everything we do. And international students, they're the ones that come to this country and stay here and start new businesses. And that's just, it's just the worst idea of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Someone's going to realize, ease up. Go worry about it. Go play golf. And he will. Eventually, I'm not being cynical. I really don't think. I think it's an excuse that admins use to make cuts. I think they're using all this stuff as a first. Oh, look how bad it is. Oh, this guy died so horrible. Oh, he's so terrible. Look what he's doing. Well, first, I think they actually exaggerate the stuff he does. They're actually, I'm not supporting him some of the things he does. I think they definitely overstated. And then, we got cut. And I think you're going to see administrations. Remember the pandemic? Remember how the pandemic was going to destroy everything?
So, yeah. So, I mean, the narrative that they have is everything that is good at DU is due to the chancellor and his projects. Everything is bad at DU is headwinds and things out of control. So
Right.
that's been the story all along, and it's obviously nonsense.
Well, there's a lot of good people who work here, there's a lot of good results, there's a lot of good things happening here, and you guys should continue to focus on those things.
I agree. I want to go back to the endowment just because I brought this up at the last board meeting, like I said, and what I quoted you and I said, you know, the thing that Howard said was the endowment's just not doing enough for you. Can you tell us more about what that means? And I know.
That means their returns aren't as high as they should be. Because they're averaging 6% returns, they should be averaging 12. So they're not getting as much out of it, and therefore they're not supporting the university as much as they should. Secondly, I do agree with you, 4.5% is too low. So for those, and then thirdly, would you get out of the hedge funds, please? Slowly but surely get out. Get out. It won't hurt you. But I do think there's gotta, I mean, you tell me this at lunch. I think there have to be connections between board members and oil and gas. There have to be. Or else this wouldn't be happening. I don't know that for a fact. And there have to be, the board members have to be from that industry or from the financial services industry or both. There have to be, or else we wouldn't be seeing this kind of stuff going on. That stuff I uncovered in the 990, that's not nice. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
That's fine.
That's just not nice.
That's good. Other questions or observations? The other, there's another narrative that's around that is sort of like, you know, we can't raise salaries because that's a
Ongoing cost.
ongoing cost. We can't raise. We definitely can't raise them by paying out 5% instead of 4%. We can't use that kind of money to raise salaries because it's an ongoing cost, et cetera. I look at this whole, the salaries are clearly a huge part of the story. What do you say?
Well, they could raise it to 5%, spend rate to 5% and increase the salaries in that way. Secondly, how about this? No kidding aside, do you need this many vice chancellors? I'm not kidding. They need to take a look at that cost. They are too high. There's too many administrators making too much money at the University of Denver. I firmly believe that. And nothing's gonna, that's the first, if you want to cut, that is the number 1, 2, and 3 place you should look, is administrative costs. There's too many vice chancellors on that list. I can't imagine what all these people do. I just don't understand what they all do for $300,000, $400,000 a year. What are they doing?
So we've been asking this and they report to us, no, you're miscounting the number of vice chancellors and others. They say, I agree, but
There's too many of them. Give me a break.
it's clear how many there are and how.
And what, by the way, after you leave, why do they keep paying people after they've left? What is that about?
Great question.
They can't, they must sign employment contracts. There's a bunch of former employees in those 990s who get paid after they've left this place. Why do you have to give them those kind of contracts? Do you need to do that to attract great talent? That's what they say. We have to pay people, give them this much money and give them clauses in the contract that say, if you leave after so many years, you will get this for the next 5 years, even after you're no longer an employee. You don't have to do that. And all these universities, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, we pay what our peers pay, which with the admin, the president gets paid what the presidents and the other places get paid. These are obscene amounts of money. I think they're obscene amounts of money. I do. And I'm not saying it's cut the president's salary. I think the place to start is let's phase out the number of vice chancellors. Yeah. Can we at least before we lay off 7 people making $45,000 to $50,000 a year, can we maybe look at someone making $400,000 a year before we do that? I'm not saying that to be nice, but come on, it does not make sense.
You said we pay, because we're hiring a new provost, and we've gotta be competitive, but we are not competitive, we're the 17th lowest on faculty competition, is that right? Like, we don't use the same state.
Exactly right. So we have to be competitive to hire admin, but faculty, we don't
Doesn't
care.
matter.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And it's not pleasant. Not pleasant. And it wouldn't be the same if we look at staff numbers elsewhere also. But they really, the staff numbers, to me, what I see, the trends I've seen, big decline in secretarial staff, outsourcing of housing and dining, outsourcing of and reduction in maintenance, electricians, plumbers, things of that. I don't know if that's happening here. But those are trends. And so since they're happening elsewhere, they're gonna happen here. These guys all go to these conferences together and they. What a great day tonight. I give you guys nothing but good news.
Thank you to Howard. Thanks to everybody who stuck around, people online. Oh, there is a comment online. Hold on a second. has, it says here, the university has developed various metrics for faculty and staff productivity, but I've not heard one for the administration, including operating margins. Do you have any suggestion?
Well, I just think, looking at the average salary graph, I would say, come on, do we have to, does it have to be this much of a gap between them and us? Does it really have to be? And what, this vice chancellor thing, why are they all getting paid $300,000 or $400,000? That seems like a lot of money to me. And they brought that new guy on this last time, and what'd you say his title was?
Who's that? The vice chancellor of
Marketing. And I saw they paid a lot of money to outside consultants. So they're paying all this money to employees, and now they're paying outside consultants for digital marketing. Well, if these guys are all getting paid so much money, why do you have to pay outside consultants $2 million? Can't the people you're paying $400,000 a year figure it out? And if they can't figure it out, they don't belong to work. I'm sorry. It's the people who have direct contact with students, that it's faculty and staff with the contact with the students that know the place, that run the place, that make the place go, and that's where the energy should go. I get the sense here that the administrators are pretty divorced from you guys. You don't get to really hang out with them and talk to them, or
If we do, we sign non-disclosure.
yeah, and it's non-disclosure thing, it's off the charts, not acceptable. But they can do what they want, but there are, I've tried to suggest some win-win ideas. There are solutions and things that can be worked on together between administration and faculty and staff that can make the place better financially and otherwise. And that to me should be the focus, as opposed to, let's just figure out who we're gonna fire. And wear it like a badge of honor.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Howard. Let's